Welcome to Cultivating Keepsakes. I'm Eden, and I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to make some primitive style ducks. The first thing you're going to need is one of these duck Easter eggs from the Dollar Tree. I'm using the purple one, but you can use any color. It doesn't matter. You're also going to need some light yellow paint. I used folkart chalk style paint in the color Summer Porch, but any paint will do. Just keep in mind if you use acrylic, it's probably going to take more coats. I recommend scuffing it up a little with some sandpaper, since it's such a shiny plastic. I gave my duck 3 coats of paint, heat drying in between each one, but not after the last one. For the next step, you're going to need some ground instant coffee and some cinnamon. The brand doesn't matter, so I recommend the cheap stuff. And I know what I'm showing you is not the cheap stuff, but that's only because I had a last-minute project and the Dollar Tree unfortunately wasn't open, so this is what I got. Once you get your final coat of paint on, you're going to sprinkle on some of your coffee and cinnamon. How much you sprinkle depends on how grungy you want your duck to be. Once you get that on, you're going to give it a little spritz of water. This helps activate the coffee and make it a little more drippy and realistic looking. Then you can let your duck sit for a couple minutes, or do what I did and hit it with the heat gun for like 20 seconds. You definitely don't want it completely dry though. The next step is to give your duck a nice coat of white Elmers school glue. This will help smear the coffee and the cinnamon to give it an aged look. Next, I used Waverly chalk paint in the color pumpkin to paint my duck's bill. I gave it 2 coats, heat drying in between. Next, I took my black Posca paint pen and gave my duck 2 eyes, being careful to line them up and get them centered. Now it's time for my favorite part, embellishing and finishing, of course. You can use whatever ribbon or fabric you'd like. I used brown plaid homespun and tore it into a thin strip. You're then going to tie your ribbon or fabric around your duck's neck and make a bow. I find the easiest way to do this is the bunny ears technique. You know, the one you learned in kindergarten? Except, pro tip here, I turn my duck upside down before making my bunny ears. I find this gives me a nicer bow and helps my tails be going the way that I want them to. Down. Look at that pro bow making right there. Once you get your basic bow made, you can mess around with it to get it to the right size and look that you're going for. And then cut off the excess tails. I'm curious, do you have any tricks when it comes to making bows? If so, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear them. Now we're down to our last step. We're going to hot glue our button to the center of our bow. And that's it. We're done. Our little duck's complete. I hope you enjoyed this project today. And don't forget to tag me if you make one so I can see. Once again, I appreciate you all so much. Thanks for being here. Bye!